Thanks, Simon. So I'm just going to run through a little bit of a presentation and just a little bit of a background on me and why I got involved in CBD. I've been in the nutrition world for over 10 years now, and I've worked with anyone from professional athletes to the U.S. Marshals. So I've seen a lot of different products, and I'd never really seen a product that was doing the things that CBD was doing. And I got very intrigued. I started studying. I went through the science. I actually started to grow my own. I moved out to Vermont. I left Hawaii, and I lived in a trailer in the snow and was shucking my own hemp. And it was freezing cold, but the quality control wasn't there. And Simon and I had just been talking a little bit off camera about that, how when you're growing things, you need to be very conscientious that there's no mold, heavy metals, toxins in the product. And frankly, in the CBD industry, there's not a lot of regulation going on right now. So while I am with a brand, we're just going to educate about CBD, and then we'll talk a little bit about the brand that we work with.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And this is a little presentation that we have. So we are going to be talking mostly about hemp. I will touch upon marijuana, but CBD does come from hemp. So I always like to start with every plant is a teacher, but as in every crowd, there are a few loud mouths. I definitely believe that hemp is something that's really going to change the world, industrially and medicinally as well. It's actually one of the 7 sacred plants. It was written about in the Vedas. So we'll get into that in a sec. But really, we're just going to go over the emerging industry, the history and the future, how to be healthy without the high, and the potential medical implications of CBD, plus what your endocannabinoid system actually is and how to navigate the market. So this is a video that I really love to share in the beginning. It was recently banned from being played on the Super Bowl. And this video talks about medical cannabis and the implications that it can have. I find it very ironic that this commercial was actually banned because we're in the United States, we're the only country in the world other than New Zealand that is allowed to advertise prescription medications. But you know, you've seen those things, and it's always like death, diarrhea, incontinence, cancer. These are all of the side effects. So medical cannabis has never caused a death. There is no addictive tendencies with it, and I will get into the difference between medical and everything, but I just want to play this video for everybody.
Austin would have dozens to hundreds of seizures every single day. None of the prescriptions would work. One pill almost killed our son.
I've had 3 back surgeries, and I was on opioids for 15 years. It was a very dark, very depressive time in my life.
After my injury, I felt like I couldn't live with the pain, but I couldn't live with this treatment long term. It was unbearable.
I don't want to live like that anymore. Medical cannabis saved Austin's life.
Cannabis has given me my life back.
There are families in other states having to watch their children die.
I want to see my brothers and sisters who sacrificed so much for this country have access to the safest treatment possible. It really is an injustice.
It's not just unfair, it's cruel.
So I find that video really, really touching, and it gets a little confusing there because it does say medical cannabis, but I want to be clear when we are talking about the benefits of cannabis, the majority of the medicinal qualities come from CBD, which is found in the cannabis family, and hemp is part of the cannabis family. So we've been kind of rocked by this product that's come out. It's predicted to outperform the NFL. It's predicted to outperform the whole entire organic food industry within the next 5 years. And everyone's kind of looking at it as a snake oil because it's supposed to cure everything. But really, it's an ancient solution. You know, it's been used since the beginning of time. We found it in Egyptian tombs. Cleopatra used it. The Declaration of Independence was actually written on hemp paper. Up until 1937, hemp was actually the most widely prescribed medication that we had, and it was in the pharmacopoeia. And then the Tax Act came in. So there was 3 main guys that kind of pioneered the Marijuana Tax Act. And one of them, interestingly enough, his name was DuPont. So you guys may have probably heard of DuPont and Pioneer. So it's a very interesting history. There's a lot of conspiracy that comes around it. But I do like to point out, you know, that it is in the United States Congressional Library, and it was written by the American Medical Association, that the Marijuana Tax Act was passed in direct response to the introduction of morphine and opioids. So it's not all conspiracy. It's right there. The American Medical Association asked for this product to not be removed from our diets and from our medicine cabinets, but it did go ahead and happen anyway. So really, yeah, the future of hemp is pretty cool. It has over 50,000 industrial uses. It's the only annually renewable plant on Earth able to replace all fossil fuels. What's pretty amazing about hemp is that it grows in 90 days versus, say, a tree that can take 10 years and you can create paper from it. So you can see from everything from food, medicine, livestock bedding, fuel, construction materials, plastics. All plastic could be replaced with hemp plastic. You can see there's a couple major industries that may not have wanted this plant to be around for a while.
Right.
So this is also around when the Marijuana Tax Act came in to play. Henry Ford actually invented a car out of hemp, and he was able to fuel it. So interestingly enough, that's kind of when this plant got removed. Farmers in the United States were actually required to grow hemp up until this tax act. And then this is a really cool car that Porsche has just put out. So it's called the Hippie. And it's actually made of hemp, and it's fueled by hemp. So it's really cool. Brittany and I, my business partner, who we work on this project together, we keep joking we want to be the Oprah of hemp cars and be like, you get a hemp car, you get a hemp car. But hopefully these will come out soon.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, me too. A hemp flying car, who knows, you know? So this is where people get really confused. A lot of people are talking about CBD and they think that it really needs to come from marijuana, but actually you want your hemp, or you want CBD to come from hemp. So what you have is the cannabis family, and you can think of cannabis like citrus. And then you have your lemons and you have your oranges. So hemp would be a lemon, marijuana would be an orange. They're both part of the citrus family or the cannabis family. The real difference is going to be the THC content. But you can visually see that there is a difference in the plant. So marijuana actually grows to about waist high. Hemp will grow to about 10 to 20 feet. And again, the major difference is the THC content. But back in the day, marijuana was much more balanced with CBD. I equated a little bit to, you know, when we stopped being able to sell alcohol, people stopped making fine wine and they started making moonshine. And that's pretty much exactly what happened with marijuana. So we weren't able to have marijuana anymore. So breeders actually bred marijuana to have higher levels of THC, lower levels of CBD. So we kind of got this marijuana that was on steroids.
Right. And I just recently found out about that, and that even in the 70s, I heard it from guys who, you know, were smoking pot in the 70s. And they're like, the stuff out here now is like 3 to 4 times stronger. And even guys who have been, you know, smoking for a long time, they take one hit and they're blown away by the new stuff. So, and it makes total sense, right? If something is illegal, you want to get the most bang for the buck, just like moonshine. You're not going to make it 40 proof. You're going to make it, 140 proof.
Yeah. And then people, you know, they added pesticides and they made it grow harder and faster. And the plant just got put on steroids, really. But CBD is actually the molecule that blocks you from getting high. So back in the day, you know, when the plant was more balanced, it would be a more mellow, chilled out, stoned. And CBD, you can never get high off of CBD. But even now, if you get a marijuana plant that has been bred with higher CBD content, it'll be like more of a mellow high, whereas THC can actually induce a lot of psychosis, and it is the part that is psychoactive. So CBD, you can never get stoned off of it. Even if you just smoked copious amounts, there's nothing that will happen psychoactively, which is pretty interesting to note. My mom's really funny. She's English, and they're really liberal about marijuana. And she's like, darling, I just can't smoke the marijuana in the States anymore. And she was telling me, though, and my grandmother was telling me, they both remember their grandmothers using hemp products. So hemp was traditionally used a lot for period cramps, and my grandmother remembers when her grandmother was using it for that. So we are of a generation that there's still people around who remember when this was medicinal.
Yeah. One question comes up for me, and I know you're going to cover this, but what is the difference between CBD and hemp oil that you could find at Whole Foods?
Very good question. So I'll skip ahead for you right here. So a lot of people are selling hemp oil and they're claiming that it's CBD. Hemp oil is really good for you. It's high in omega-3s and 6s. It makes really good salad dressing. But just because you have hemp oil, it doesn't mean that there's a high CBD content in it. So I would describe it, you actually have to breed a plant to have high CBD. So it'd be like getting an orange that's more nutrient dense. You've got more minerals, more vitamins in it. So you actually have to make the CBD strain come through, and you have to have it expressed properly. So unless the product has been tested afterwards, which you should make sure you're looking at a certificate of analysis, you have no idea how much CBD is actually in the hemp oil. So if you are spending $90, $100 on hemp oil, you're getting thoroughly ripped off. You need to actually flip over the label and you need to see that the CBD content is actually in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so there are a lot of companies, there's a lot of companies ripping people off, but hemp oil is great for salad dressing. Don't heat it. You don't want to cook with it. But again, you just need to breed that plant to have higher levels of CBD.
And so the only way to know is to have a certificate of analysis, right? I mean, barring that, how would you know?
Yeah, barring that, you wouldn't really know. I mean, if you're a good breeder and you're a good farmer, you can kind of tell from the way that the product makes you feel afterwards, etc. But yeah, barring that, you don't know. You have to get the testing. And a lot of companies won't be able to spend the money to do that, nor do they have the ethics to do it at this point because it's such a big cash crop.
Well, that's one thing I found in my personal experience in making herbal products. I have a product that I make. I had to go through a certificate of analysis for each of the ingredients that I put in, and some of them didn't pass the test. I was sourcing them from India, and the analysis came back that either has mold or it doesn't have the herb that it's supposed to have in it. And so without a certificate of analysis, there's no way to know, right? And I know a lot of because the supplement industry isn't regulated unless there's a big issue. I've been in the supplement industry for a long time, like even when I was a trainer and working with clients, and even protein powders, when they're tested, they don't have the stuff they're supposed to have in there. So, right, unless you really trust the company, but then still who knows if the batch you got is good or not. And
you have to have every batch tested.
Every batch tested, right? And even in MMA, there's I mean, not to digress here, but there's fighters who test for certain things. John Jones was banned, and there's a whole controversy around why, because there was stuff in his supplements that wasn't supposed to be there.
Yes.
And the final thing is, when I was going to a dispensary to get CBD and THC for a cancer patient, every dispensary I went to had a different product, and I would ask them, is this the same as this other one? They're like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew me away.
They don't know, and you've got bud tenders, and I mean, there's been so much red tape around this product that we haven't been able to research it so much. So we are relying on patient testimony, but we have a lot of people who don't have the qualifications and aren't able to do the research and are just looking at it for money. I always say that America is like a bad drug deal when it comes to supplements, because you don't have to tell what somebody cut it with prior.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the CBD that we work with is the only one that is considered pharmaceutical grade. So in 11 countries, this is actually written as a pharmaceutical. In the United States, it's regulated as a supplement. What happened was about 30 days ago, Trump changed the law. The Farm Bill Act got changed. So this means that anyone can grow hemp and it can cross state lines, which is a good thing per se, but it means there's even less regulation. So we're going to see over the next couple months, maybe even a year, there's going to be a big sifting process, and there is going to be a regulatory body that comes in. The company Medical Marijuana Inc. that we're working with is being consulted on that. So it'll be like a non-GMO sticker, but it's going to come and it's going to be specifically for hemp products, because hemp is actually also a bioaccumulator. So it's phenomenal at cleaning soil. It will suck all of the heavy metals into it, molds, toxins. That's why it's good at also detoxifying the body. But that means that it can be a really dangerous product to take internally.
Wow, you're taking it to detox to get better, and you're inadvertently taking a bunch of stuff that it's sucked up from the soil, like heavy metals, which is a big deal.
And people, I mean, I've been in this industry for 10 years. I think everyone should take CBD and try it for a few months, 100%. It's a great preventative. It's a great antioxidant, and it's a great neuroprotectant, anti-inflammatory. But a lot of the people who reach for this product are in dire need. They're going through cancer. They're going through things that are extreme. And so if they're putting anything impure in their body, it's not going to be helping them.
Yeah, they're even more sensitive, right?
Yeah. So this is kind of the difference with THC, CBD. One thing that is just super important to know is that CBD has a low affinity for CB1 and CB2 receptors. So what that means really is that it's safe for children. So children with ADD, ADHD have had phenomenal results on this product. THC does bind to CB1 and CB2 receptors, so it's not necessarily safe for children whose frontal lobes have not merged. Now, there is a caveat with this. When you don't heat THC, you can't get high from it. So if you have THC that's never been heated, if you were to eat a marijuana bud, there's no way for you to get stoned. So it's a little bit interesting there. So cannabinoids are kind of what hemp is really known for. There's at least 100 known cannabinoids, and there's nearly 400 other chemical components in the hemp plant. That's why this is getting so much attention for CBD. However, CBD is found in other plants too. So we have it in echinacea, flax, tea, kavas, and hops. You actually even produce cannabinoids in your own body. So mothers who have breast milk, they're producing cannabinoids. So you and I, Simon, even though you've not been taking CBD yet, or you took it for a while, you told me, but it doesn't mean that you're not having any cannabinoids in your body. It means you might not be getting enough.
Right. And what I took was, I tried CBD. I tried it for a week or so before. I just didn't, I honestly, I didn't have confidence in the company. Like, I didn't know what I was taking, and it cost a ton of money. And to me, it was just like hemp oil. And I'm like, I'm not paying for a little 4 ounce of hemp oil, $50. It just didn't make sense.
And that's, people need to pay for the cost per milligram. So everyone's like, oh, well, I got this much more. Really what you need to be looking at is the cost of the milligram that you're taking. So this, I'll get into that in a second though, but this is the entourage effect. So this is why hemp is such a power player. So it has many other cannabinoids in it. It's got CBN, CB2, and you can see here, there's a little tiny part of the pie chart that's got THC in it. So if you were to have a marijuana plant, this little tiny part would be CBD, and this big blue thing would be THC. But this is a hemp plant. This is what makes it more medicinal. So this is why you want a full spectrum product. Now, some people can't take a full spectrum product because they will fail a drug test. It's like eating a poppy seed bagel. You're not going to get stoned from it. But if that is the case, we do have an isolate line. So you can guarantee that you won't fail a drug test. And it's actually approved by the Anti-Doping Federation, and some NFL players use that as well.
Awesome. And what's the difference in terms of effects between the two? My
personal preference is full spectrum all the way. However, if you can't take it, please take, the isolate. You just need to take a little bit more of the isolate. And full spectrum, you're going to have to take a little bit less because you've got all the other components playing with it as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is why it's being called snake oil. This is Dr. Raphael Mechoulam. He's the man who discovered the endocannabinoid system because, interestingly enough, we have been funding cannabis research in Israel for 50 years. So he wrote, I can't list all of the physiological symptoms and conditions affected by cannabinoids because there are too many systems, So the endocannabinoid system is what we are regulating by taking this hemp product. And the endocannabinoid system is really interesting. It's only taught in 13 pharmacies or nursing schools, which may be because it was only discovered in the 1990s. However, it's the body's largest self-regulatory system. So it balances mood, sleep, appetite, hormone production. So this means that hemp and CBD products, when they go into your body, act as an adaptogen. They do for your body what your body needs to be done. So what it does in Simon's body, what it does in my body is going to be completely different. So it allows your body to just do its own healing and nudge it back into balance. There's a lot more that goes into it. It actually increases the cellular communication and electricity in the body. But it's just a very potent anti-inflammatory too. And in the United States right now, you're supposed to get about a 1-to-1 ratio of inflammatory to anti-inflammatory. It's predicted that we get a 30-to-1 inflammatory to anti-inflammatory. So anything that you can do to your body anti-inflammatory is very important.
What do you mean 30-to-1? Like in our diet or?
Yes, in our diets. So 6s and 9s, omega 6s and 9s essentially are inflammatory. And 3s are anti-inflammatory. So we get way more 6s and 9s than we do 3s. And you do need inflammation. If you didn't have an inflammation response, you would bleed to death if you cut yourself. But you just need that system to be in check. And we're just all living as a nation inflamed. There's also evidence this actually helps protect with electromagnetic frequencies, which I'm pretty excited about. So cell phones, radiation, things like that.
Oh, wow. That's huge. I hadn't heard about that. You mean the reduction in inflammation helps with your body's ability to cope with RF frequencies, or that there's another system through which the CBD works?
So the system, it's an antioxidant. So essentially, potentially both. If you're allowing your body to deal with the inflammation, it's going to nudge itself back into harmony, but also it's going to actually be an antioxidant and help with those frequencies. There's a really phenomenal book called, I'll write it to you. It's like Electromagnetic Nutrition. And it talks, it's like a couple wrote it coming out of New Zealand. And it talks a lot about the electrical system in the body and how CBD works on it as well. But we should see a lot more research about that come out really soon.
Well, we need it because also 5G is coming out, and there 5G in 2019 and 2020, there's a big push both in Europe and the United States, which is going to basically 5G is 1,000 times stronger than 4G, right? And the cell towers aren't going to be every few miles, they're going to be every few hundred feet, and they're going to be smaller towers. And so we're all going to be exposed to it. So, you know.
And we all are so exposed to it. You know, and we are big walking electrical systems. I mean, that's really what we are.
Yeah.
So the better we can do to keep that in line.
You know, it's kind of like in The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, when you get one extreme, like Neo, you know, the hero, you also get another extreme to balance it, like the villain. And so whenever there's something super bad coming out, inevitably nature will give us the antidote to that. So I think this may be, right, this may be it.
I'm really glad you said that, because I've always seen, you know, there's always the antidote, right? And there's a lot of implications with CBD and cancer and some of these nastier diseases that we're having. And so like on a spiritual, bigger level, I really see this plant as kind of being the same. It's been underground. It grows like a weed. It's prolific. It has a lot of negative connotations around it. It really is the yin to these negative diseases that we have going on. I've always thought, like, very spiritually, it's an interesting plant. It's been written about in the Vedas as one of the 7 sacred plants. It's written about in the Bible. Every single ancient civilization used to use this, and they would mix it with different herbs. Buddhists used to use it with ginseng so that they could see the future. So I think, yeah, you just nailed it on the head, that there's definitely some bigger implications with this plant and how it's kind of really yin and yang balancing.
Well, and I'm excited to try it also with other adaptogens from Ayurveda, adaptogens like ashwagandha, which goes in, and ashwagandha is both calming for the nervous system, for the muscular system, helps with sleep, like all adaptogens, rhodiola rosea, I think some consider ginseng an adaptogen, and so on. They do what needs to be done. And this feels to me like it would be a good carrier, like something good to take with those herbs. Because in Ayurveda, we have the concept of anupan, which means what you take the herb with actually helps to push it deeper into the tissues.
Exactly. That's pretty much what the entourage effect is doing within the plant itself. And Janelle Kim, I will show you a slide. So we do have an herbal formulation component of our line as well. And she's a master herbologist. So she used a lot of different herbs like ginseng, licorice root, cassia, in one of the formulations that we have, with a vitamin D3 sublingual, which is a really cool product. It's one of my favorite products that they have rolled out.
Which one is that, the AM or the PM?
There's the AM, PM, and then there's a Revive Pro.
Revive.
And, yeah, that's what I loved. I personally take those products. Those are my go-to. They're not the strongest milligram of CBD. One of them is about 17 milligrams per serving, but I do know my partner's father, he said he's on 17 milligrams, and that's completely helped his inflammation in his joints. Generally, we recommend like 50 milligrams to start with, but I mean, he's a really big man and he's getting results with 17 milligrams. So everyone's going to be really different here. And we don't know right now, and I don't think we will ever know how much CBD you should be taking based on your size, weight, disease. There is talk of genetic profiling to kind of see what you should take eventually, and we'll see how that goes. But really, there's nothing bad with taking too much CBD, except you reach this point where you're wasting money. Like 60 milligrams might have worked fine for you. You're taking 120. It's a little bit, your cost is all working. Same with vitamins, take too much B vitamins, you'll pee it out.
Right. Well, so, just so everybody knows, I am about to start on a regimen myself. I've had, you guys probably know I've had some health issues, which is why I'm in Bali. I've completed Panchakarma, and I'm about to start a regimen. So I'll keep everybody posted on, my findings, and give you my own experience with it, because the way I work is, if I hear about something, I dive right in. I just go for it. And I've done that with a whole bunch of other things. And that's how I know I can recommend something, if I've personally tried it and then worked with others who have also tried it. Sorry, go ahead, Chelsea.
No, it's great. So just a little quick summary, we're a nation inflamed. This was a cover that came out in 2004 for Times. And so this is really why it's being looked at as snake oil, but it's really why it's amazing. And there is a quote from the National Institute of Health that says CBD may have therapeutic potential in almost all conditions affecting humans. And I just really love to hit home here that, this was in our food up until 75 years ago. Everyone was eating it. Our animals were eating it. It's only in the past 75 years we've not had this product in our diets. So this is kind of how it works, and you'll appreciate this a lot, Simon. So there are two main cannabinoids that we create in our own body. One is 2-AG and another is anandamide. And then the rest you kind of need to eat to get. So this is for some doctors if they want to know what actually happens with the inflammation pathway, but basically there's a moderation of the mast cell activity and histamine release. So that's why it stops the inflammation. But anandamide, the one that we produce naturally in our body, this is named after the Sanskrit word ananda, and it means bliss. So CBD actually works with this bliss molecule. It's the molecule that's responsible for the runner's high. So CBD will increase that in the body, but it will also stop the shelf life of that molecule being taken away. So anandamide comes into the body. It's a really quick molecule that's released. That's why runner's high is so quick. But what CBD does is it actually inhibits this molecule called FA, and FA is the molecule that breaks down anandamide. So this essentially is why we think it helps with mood. Scientists at UC Irvine, they did this study with rats. They took CBD and they were able to increase their oxytocin levels, which is your love hormone, your bonding hormone. It's the hormone you release when you have orgasms. And just through CBD, they were able to report improved cage mate relationships on the rats they were studying. So there's a lot of mood things that this can do as well too. And if you're, feeling more balanced internally, that everything's going to improve for you.
Right.
So the other part that is very exciting is the study of CBD with PTSD. So that's what the commercial was about earlier. There's a lot of people going through some very interesting things. PTSD is not just with veterans, but it is, of course, a huge part of the population that has PTSD. So what CBD is looking like it does is actually, it acts like a neuroprotectant, but it can actually help rewire the brain and have it communicate a little bit better. So this is observational, but in a study in Canada right now, there's 2,400 vets being observed, and those who used cannabinoids had a statistically significant reduction in severe depressive episodes and suicidal tendencies. So we should see this really coming to light. The interesting thing is, the military has put a ban on CBD. The reason is because the products on the market were so messy.
Right.
And you got something from a drugstore, a health food store, you were probably going to fail a drug test. Like I would say 99.9% chance that you were going to fail a drug test. So they said no CBD. We do have a line that is approved by the Anti-Doping Federation, but it's something for military professionals and people who get drug tested to be aware of. You can't just take any CBD product.
Mm-hmm.
So these are another thing that CBDs are being looked at, the opioid epidemic. I know I grew up on the East Coast. It's pretty intense over there. Canaway, the company that we work with, was just featured on Dateline, the History Channel, and NBC for using CBD to actually reduce the opioid overdose rate. And it's interesting because you can add CBD into an opioid regimen, which you can't really add many things into opioid regimens. Another thing is that you will never get a dependency to it. So you can take CBD for a very long time. It will remain in your system. And then you can go to a very low maintenance dose. So you don't get a dependency, you don't get used to it, and you can never become addicted to it. So it's really interesting there.
So
and
speaking of, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, finish your thought and I'll ask.
I was just going to say, in a California survey, there was 2,897 participants, and it revealed that 97% of opioid users reported that they strongly agreed that cannabinoids reduce their opioid use. Not only is it working on the pain, but it's working on the addictive mentality, or the addictive component in the brain as well.
Yeah. Since you touched on this, I just thought I'd ask. So is there like a loading phase? Is there like where you, for 3 months, you want to sort of increase to a certain high dose, then sort of hold that for a while and then decrease? Or like, how do you recommend? And I know I'm
Great
maybe
question.
jumping ahead, but.
No, that's a phenomenal question. So personally, I love to see people start at least 50 milligrams a day and stay on that for 2 to 3 months. Now, if you're having something extreme like cancer, you can go up to 120 milligrams a day. We have a product that does that. I did have someone who had cancer. They were taking 220 milligrams. So in the beginning, start high. And then once you feel that your symptoms are regulated, then you can slowly titrate down. So start around 50 milligrams. You can start around 34 as well too. Take it an hour before bed. The only side effect was CBD, and it's a very rare population that this happens to. Is about 10% of people feel a little bit sleepy. So you take it an hour or two before bed. It's not drowsy, like you can't operate machinery. And if you're not one of those people, then you can go to higher doses right away. If you are one of those people, take it for about 10 days right before you go to bed, and then it should regulate your system. It's more really like you need a restful sleep, though. It's like your body's being told, go to sleep.
Well, that's what I'm going to be using it for in part, and also inflammation and joint issues. And then a long list of other things. But should it be with food, no food, or does it matter?
Good question. So it should be with food. But what we do is we mix some of this CBD oil that we have is mixed with an MCT oil. So that's a fat, which is considered a food. And what you really want to do is take it sublingually. There are capsule forms, and some people get phenomenal results with the capsules. Like I had a kid with extreme adult autism. His mom called me. He's taking 25 milligram capsule a day, and she's like, I have my son back. Traditionally, though, we say take the oil, hold it under your tongue for 60 to 90 seconds, allow it to go into the bloodstream as much as you can, and then swallow it. You can also vaporize it, and then it bypasses the liver. So I was really on the fence about the vapes. I was like, this does not seem like it's good for you. But it actually goes into the bloodstream, and that's really where you want CBD to hang out. Okay. So as long as you have a vape that has no binders, waxes, fillers, ethanols, and is 100% pure, I actually highly recommend vaping the product. And there is an argument that all medication should be vaporized. So the only thing with vaporizing is we don't know how much you're getting. You might suck harder than I do. So we say take an internal product for 2 to 3 months. We have some really nice starter value packs that people can purchase that has the 50 milligrams. Apply topically if you have any areas of pain, discomfort, rashes, and then take a vape product as needed. So during moments of anxiety or I can't sleep.
Okay. And if sleep is, if you're not one of the people who get drowsy, can you take it? You can take it during the day, right? Okay.
I take mine during the day.
Okay.
I don't get drowsy from it. And I never have. I did have one woman and she's like, I just sleep so good. So she likes to take it at night. But usually the way that the packages work, especially the full spectrum, we have a midday capsule that you take that's also got a little bit of white willow and turmeric in it. So it's very anti-inflammatory. And then you have a nighttime oil that you take. But if you don't get drowsy, you can take it first thing in the morning. It's totally up to you.
Any advantage to dosing it out so that the absorption is sort of constant through the body? So 25 in the morning, 25 at night, something like that, milligrams?
We think so. We don't know 100% though.
Okay,
but
so
we
got to try it out for yourself.
Yeah, and everyone is so different. That's the thing right now. And a lot of my brand ambassadors, they get nervous because we don't know. But really the bottom line is doctors don't know. Nobody knows. At this point, it's like, hey, yeah, this product is great. It's working for you. Take it. Let's see what happens. But let's just make sure you're taking a pure brand.
Okay.
So
that's the most important thing, is to be taking what you think you're taking and nothing else. No pesticides, no added ingredients. That's to me, that's a big thing. Because something doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. But if I'm taking something, I think I'm taking something, but I'm actually taking something else. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly. And, frankly, I got into this industry. I kind of knew what was going on. A lot of drug dealers are coming out of Humboldt and things, and they've grown marijuana for years, and they know how to grow CBD, but they're growing it with the same mentality. They're growing it harder, faster, chemicals, not caring what's in the product. And they're just seeing a big dollar signs in front of their face, and there are a lot of dollar signs. So you do have to be careful. I thought I was going to be this rich millionaire and grow it and white label it and do all these things. And it is a messy, messy industry. I realized I was in like way over my head when I thought I was going to do that.
Your story is really cool because you told me that you started to grow and you got a harvest, right? Would you tell that story? And it had mold in it, but they still bought it from you.
Yeah, so we have right now in the United States hemp brokerages. Anyone can grow and you can sell it to somebody. They can make a product of it or you can sell it to someone. So our idea was that we were going to white label, grew the whole entire crop, was shucking the hemp and had to get the guys out of there because there was mold. I mean, the guys wouldn't even shuck it anymore. They're like, this could be toxic. We don't know. But they still ended up days later going back, put their gloves on, shucked all the hemp and turned it into a product. And halfway through doing this too, they didn't have the equipment to do the correct extraction method. So they were using binders, fillers, ethanols to get the product out. What you really want is what's called a subcritical CO2 extraction method. And to get that equipment is $750,000. So not anyone with CBD can afford that. I love small farms, I really do, and I would love to support them. I just don't think this product has the ability medicinally for that right now, especially when you're looking at it. You need to know 50 milligrams work for me. So you need the testing, you need the extraction method. Maybe one day small farms can be contributing to growing. But right now it's not in a place. And I would never have been in the past someone who said that. I'm like small farm girl all the way.
Yeah. And so the suppliers or the dispensaries ended up buying the product anyway?
Yeah, they turned it into a product and it went to market. So I pulled out of it. I said, I can't be a part of this. And it's on the market somewhere.
Yeah, when you told me that blew my mind because again, you don't know what you're getting, where it came from, and you may get lucky, but you may get you just don't know.
We worked with a woman, she's a brand ambassador now, phenomenal woman, and she said she was going through some cancer. She went to Colorado, bought this CBD product, gave her an awful headache, and she was like, CBD sucks, I can't take this. And she ended up taking our CBD and she didn't have any of those side effects, and there was mold in her product. People are highly allergic to mold, so some people are extra sensitive to it, and she felt it right away, and that is not what you want to be taking when you have cancer.
Yeah, or anything.
No, I mean, in the Bible they say if your house has mold, it says burn it down. It's like a very detrimental thing for the body. Yeah. So yeah, CBD and pain and addiction, safe to add to opioid regimen, helps with withdrawal symptoms. The most interesting thing about this slide that I love to share is there was a study done with rats. They were addicted to alcohol and cocaine. I don't know how you do this to rats, but somehow they do it. And they gave them CBD and they started exhibiting less addictive tendencies. But the very interesting part was when they tested the bodies afterwards, they tested the brain, the blood, and the fat cells. There was no CBD present anymore. The rats were still exhibiting less addictive tendencies. So the CBD had gone in, kind of regulated that system, and the addictive tendencies had somewhat slipped away. So you don't necessarily need to be on the product forever. I would highly recommend taking a low maintenance dose for quite some time. Can't hurt, but it's not something that you need to be on forever, which is pretty cool.
And it looks like it clears in 3 days, but the effects linger. It said linger for 5 months. That's amazing.
Yeah, very amazing. And this, I love to share. This doctor gave me a really hard time about this recently, and it was so ironic. So fibromyalgia is probably one of the major autoimmune diseases that most people know somebody with. And there's 3 main drugs that are prescribed for fibromyalgia: Cymbalta, Savella, and Lyrica. And 10% of people found Savella very effective, 8% found Cymbalta very effective, 10% found Lyrica very effective. 62% of people found cannabinoids very effective. And this doctor stood up in my speech and he was like, well, yeah, those are the results that I used to get. And in my head, I was thinking, you only got people 10% very effective results and you were still hired. Like, I'm a weight loss coach. If only 10% of my clients lost weight, or if they only lost 10% of the weight they wanted to lose, I should be fired. So for this product that has never had any bad side effects, and it's helping all of these people, 62%. Only 5% didn't find it helpful at all. And if you look at the other numbers, 60%, 68%, 61%.
They're flipped. The numbers are flipped, basically.
totally flipped. So there is one form of CBD right now approved by the FDA. It's an isolate. It's a synthetic, and it has already killed one small child. So this plant just needs to be left how it is. It's like a very smart plant, and it doesn't need to be messed with.
Okay, so when it says cannabinoids here, it's referring to CBD or THC as well?
Cannabinoids are going to be CBN, CB2, CB8. THC will always be part of the plant, and you can extract the THC out of it afterwards. Some diseases we think do respond better to like a 1-to-1 ratio, like MS looks like it responds better with THC and CBD.
Yeah.
But we're going to see as the studies go on and as we get more information which diseases respond better to THC versus none. But again, you still won't get high. If you haven't heated the product, if you're taking it with CBD, there's going to be no psychoactive.
Oh, I see. So even though it may be 1-to-1 THC to CBD, if it's a non-heated product, you're not going to get the psychoactive effect.
Exactly. And I do want to note too that even in the medical marijuana world, like we're talking about CBD right now, it's in the cannabis family, but we're not talking about marijuana. But even in the medical marijuana world, the idea of that is not to get high. It's like the idea is to not feel the psychoactive. It's just the healthy. So really, you want to be dealing with someone who's not trying to get you stoned. Like getting stoned isn't really that dangerous, you know, but you can fall. You can go into episodes of psychosis. So really that's what you want to avoid if you're dealing with medical cannabis, and that's what CBD definitely does.
Let me ask you this. Have you had experience with anyone taking it rectally as in the form of an enema or a suppository?
I'm glad you brought that up. So the company doesn't talk about it. I do have a couple people I've worked with colitis, and I have recommended using it in suppository form, and 2 separate people have told me that it's worked very well for them in their colitis. So if you do that, it obviously bypasses the liver. It goes right into the bloodstream. So we do have an applicator that you can create your own gel capsules, and you can do it that way. We were talking, Brittany and I, it's called like bioavailability, right? And so I don't know what happened, but one of us slipped and it called it booty availability. So that's how we were
Booty
joking.
availability, that's so cute. Yeah, I love it. Well, booty availability is the way much of Ayurvedic medicine is administered. And I just finished several weeks of it, where delivering medicated oil, herbs, people do coffee enemas, especially for cancer issues or to cleanse your liver. And you do it rectally because, again, it bypasses the digestive system and it gets taken up more quickly, especially for issues related to, like you said, colitis, but also, Vata specific issues for those of you who know Ayurveda. If there's a problem with Vata, the enema is the way to treat it. Anyway, but
Cool.
I was just curious. Yeah. So, okay, that makes sense.
I did a brief documentary with the man who runs the Gerson's clinic now down in Mexico. And yeah, you would be very familiar with the booty availability. But yeah, I would highly recommend for people to try it. I have a lot of people, I tell them to go ahead. It can't hurt.
Oh, I'm going to be doing it, and I'll report back.
I haven't been brave enough to try it yet, but I mean, I obviously should if I've been telling everyone about it.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
So, but this is where it gets messy. And so I am with a brand. I do talk about the brand and why I chose to work with them. But basically, you know, this is the biggest cash crop we've ever seen. It's the green rush. It's like the prohibition of alcohol, but with cannabis. And so everyone has jumped on this bandwagon. And right now, 91% of products don't match their packaging, and 70% of CBD products do not match their label. So I work with a company called Canaway, which is a subsidiary of Medical Marijuana Inc. And of the hundreds of products that were tested, we were only 2 that met their certificate of analysis or exceeded it. So what does that even mean? Well, when you're looking for a CBD product, you need to ask for this. So it's a certificate of analysis. It needs to be done batch by batch. If it's not posted on the website clear as day, probably not going to be a good company to be working with. But even if you do look at the label, it doesn't mean that it's going to match what's on the certificate of analysis. So this is one of the most popular CBD products sold in health food stores. It's a 30 milliliter bottle. It's labeled that it has 500 milligrams of CBD in it. But when you actually get down to it and you do the math, I worked it out, there's only about 78 milligrams of CBD in this product. It also says that it's a full spectrum product, but when you look here at the CBG, CBC, CBN,
not detected.
Detectable.
Yeah.
So you've got to really look at this, which is a pain. You shouldn't have to do that. And this is, this is actually ridiculous. So this is a CBD lube that is being sold.
Mm-hmm.
So it's selling for $48, I think it was. And if you do the math on that, that means they're charging $4.85 per milligram of CBD. So for our pharmaceutical grade CBD that is written as a prescription in 11 countries and is triple lab tested, the most we charge is 10 cents a milligram.
Whoa.
So these people are getting ripped off royally. So this is where you have to be very, very careful.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
And especially if you think you're getting a dose, but you're not actually getting a dose, and then you go, well, this doesn't work. That one that's 78 milligrams, that's a day and a half dose for, if you're starting at 50 milligrams, and you think it's going to last you a month, and you're like, what is all this crap? I don't care what the research says. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
have, we have people all the time. And they're like, well, I got this bottle and it's 250 milligrams and it was $90. I'm like, okay, great. You have a 5-day supply of CBD and you spent $90. Like the
Wow.
price might look a little bit intimidating when you see it to start with, but when you break it down cost per milligram, that's when you start to see what really matters. I mean, I've been seeing gummy bears being sold for five milligrams and they're very expensive. I think we worked it out. One was $7 a milligram. It's absurd. And yeah, if you take 50 milligrams a day, you're going to go broke if you do that. So
Right.
find a product that's reasonable. So the CBD industry, it is predicted to outperform the entire organic food industry within the next 5 years. Pretty crazy statistic. Right now, we think CBD is everywhere. It's only at $2 billion a year. It's projected to be at $57 billion by 2027. So if you think you've seen CBD all over the place, imagine what it's going to look like when it's really at $57 billion worldwide. So Canaway, I do want to talk. Do you have any questions about CBD before I kind of get into why I chose this company that we work
No,
with?
I think here you're good. I do have questions about why you chose the company, so this is perfect.
Okay, so Canaway is a subsidiary of Medical Marijuana Inc. And Medical Marijuana Inc. is the first publicly traded cannabis company. So they were opened about 10 years ago. The CEO was an amazing man, but he died in a car crash. But what happened was Dr. Stuart Titus was working with the company for a very long time. And so now he is the CEO of Canaway. And Dr. Stuart Titus is the first man ever to isolate a CBD molecule and create a product out of it. So he doesn't talk about his story too much. It's considered a medical claim, but he was in a wheelchair, suffering extremely with Lyme disease. And he started taking a 25 milligram capsule and he was able to get up and move around. And he just became incredibly passionate about the product. So Canaway is a direct selling company, which means it's multi-level marketing. But what's really fascinating about it is that Medical Marijuana Inc. was the main company, and it is the main company. They own Canna Life Sciences. They own Echo Connection, which works with children with extreme epilepsy. But they chose direct selling to actually move this CBD product because it's the best industry to move a product in the United States. So it's a science-based company that chose this method to get it out there. And it means that everyone can kind of get a piece of the green rush. Like I said, I thought I was going to be this like multimillionaire and grow my own and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot harder than you think. So you actually have the opportunity to become a walking dispensary. I was just in Massachusetts. There was a 2-hour-long wait outside of this dispensary, and there's a very large part of the population that does not want to get stoned. They just want the medicinal benefits. And I was like, I could just walk up to every single one of these people and say, hey, you can order from my website right now if you want. And interestingly enough, that dispensary, I got walked to the front of the line by a state trooper. They love Medical Marijuana Inc. They love our RSHO oil, which is our real scientific hemp oil. It's actually featured in a documentary right now on Netflix. So even the dispensaries will carry this product. It's a very unique direct selling company. They've got international attention everywhere. So what they have right now is considered the gold standard of CBD. It's the only one written as prescription grade. As of today, it's now written it's now being prescribed by doctors. It's the one that they're going to go to in the United States, but it's regulated as a supplement. So we have the option to get the word out to educate people and to really help them get a hold of this product.
So their doctors will be prescribing the Canaway product.
I should probably not say prescribing, but it's the one that they're going to recommend. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they have to write it as a prescription.
Okay.
And another part of this is you don't have to pay for a cannabis card. So a lot of people who are getting CBD right now, they pay $100, $250, or $450 a year to the government to get a cannabis card. You don't need that with this.
Yeah, I paid
I mean,
$300 for my card last year.
how much did you pay?
$300 in Arizona.
Yeah, so you don't have to pay that. We don't, I know that when you have a medical cannabis card, you don't pay taxes, so you still will pay taxes off of this, but that's really the only difference.
Yeah.
So Canaway, it's the first direct selling company in the cannabis space. Everything that is being put out in the CBD industry right now is actually being mimicked off of the research of our company because we hold the government patent, which is actually a really great thing. So Canna Life Sciences owns the government patent. They can do all of the research, which means that for the next 10 years or so, I think it's 10 years they hold it, I could be wrong about that, the pharmaceutical companies can't get a hold of it and can't doctor it up. So it's actually a very cool thing that they hold that. And I'm not going to play this right now, but I will talk a little bit about this. So we took the direct selling a little bit further. My business partner, Brittany, and I have created this program where within our model, we sponsor people in who have cancer, who are going through extreme periods in their life where they need financial support, and they could do with CBD. And so what we do is we sponsor them into the organization, and we can essentially build them a business so that they can have up to $2,500 a month while they're going through treatment. So as you're purchasing your CBD, if you come into the company, and we call you CBD superheroes, you can come in, you can incorporate it as your wellness program. You can do it in a really heart-centered way, but you can also help these people who need to get financial assistance while they're going through treatment. So it's pretty cool.
That's part of what got me. And a good friend and a student of mine introduced me to this, and I trust her implicitly, explicitly. And she didn't even mention the Warrior program, but when you mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's a no-brainer. I'm in.
Brittany and I were doing an event at Polo over here in Hawaii, because that's where I lived. And this guy came over to us and he was like, I want to buy everything. I'm like, that's a lot of money. What do you mean? And he said, I have my son, he has cerebral palsy, and they wanted to put him on an opioid pump when he was a young boy. I think he was like 12 or something when they were trying to put him on an opioid pump. So instead they did yoga and CBD, and the guy was practically in tears. He's like, I just want to tell you that he's now at Harvard studying. And we were like, he's like, CBD changed my son's life. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so glad you're educating on this product. Like, we need more of this. And so Brittany and I started brainstorming. You know, we were in this for a very heart-centered reason, but we're like, well, why don't we put people like that in the model? Because we can sponsor them in, we can build their business. MLM is actually a phenomenal model because you get to help people make an income. And so why not take it a step further? And Simon, you're actually, so in the leg that you work in with Suzanne, you're underneath a 10-year-old boy in Hawaii. He was the first warrior that we had. So he had leukemia, or he has leukemia. He's going through it. Mom had to quit her job. So everything that we do, they're at a $2,500 a month paycheck now. So she can relax a little bit and he can have his CBD. So it's been a really rewarding project above and beyond what me and Brittany were like, we're fucking the medical system. Here we go.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Great. Yeah.
Community is.
So if you guys want to watch that, that is on the Facebook. That is a story about Donna. We raised $4,000 for her to pee on the CBD for the year on the gold oil applicator. A tumor in her spine went away when she was taking it. She had stage 4 cancer. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, $4,000 a year to be on this product. But if you're going through something serious, that's really nothing, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, if you have cancer, you're prescribed this thing called Humira. Humira, it's $4,100 a month to be on that product.
Wow.
So yeah, CBD is really nothing to be on a gold standard of it all year for $4,000. And that's the highest milligram. That's just only if you're going through something extreme. So lastly, we say, how do you want to help us change the world? This is a quote that it says, the discovery of the endocannabinoid system is the single most important medical scientific discovery ever and will save more lives than the discovery and application of sterile surgical technique. I'm pretty excited about that. So I know probably, Simon, your audience is very on the up and up about health and wellness and different things. And if they really want to help spread the word about this plant and get it back into society, they absolutely have the option to join and help us. So either just becoming a customer and taking it yourself, you're going to be helping those people that we've sponsored. You're kind of getting healthy in someone's name.
Yeah,
Or
love
becoming
it.
a superhero and talking about it, educating it, making an income with it. So all of the Canaway products, they are triple lab tested. They're natural, organic. They meet the European testing standards and they meet the California testing standards, which are
And
the two high.
you said they're grown in the Alps?
Yeah, they are. Right now, we're looking to grow in the United States, hopefully, but the law, again, only changed 30 days ago. So they're going to be looking for farmers that have pure land, pure soil, things like that. But right now, it's all grown in Europe.
Well, I can tell you, when I was a kid, I went to Switzerland. The best tasting milk you've ever had in your life, with, cream on top that's like this thick, two fingers thick. The best cheese, and it comes from a soil that, Switzerland is very, very, very high standard when it comes to their. So when you said it's grown in the Swiss Alps, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Check that
Europe,
box.
so strict, and our skincare meets their standards too. So in America, we've only ever banned 11 products in skincare ingredients, which is ridiculous. In Europe's banned 1,136 ingredients. So I always tell people, if you're going to buy supplements, skincare, go New Zealand, Europe, or Australia. Those are the places that have a stricter standard. Even wine, cheese, like, do not be buying your stuff from America. It's pretty scary. There's like no testing at all.
That's terrible to say, but
I'll just share one fact that I love to say. We're the only country in the world that measures GDP, including healthcare. So the higher the cost of healthcare, or the more sick people there are, the higher the cost of the dollar. As soon as you understand that, you can see that there's some flaws in why we're testing things, and you would know from making an herbal product what kind of goes on in the industry.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
So this is the government patent that we hold. Very interesting patent. You guys can do some research on it on your own. Interesting that the government held a patent on medical marijuana. They said for a very long time there was no use for it, but there was a patent that they were holding. So kind of the three products that you can, or the three families of products that you can explore. One is going to be the full spectrum. Then you're going to have the pure, and then you're going to have the herbal formulation. I know you have a big Ayurvedic following, so I would highly recommend everybody in your group to try the AM PM formula and the Revive, and I'll get into that in a minute, but those do have THC in them. So the full spectrum products, these are going to be, they're from the whole entire plant, but they do have that THC content. It's like eating a poppy seed bagel. You won't get high, but you might fail a drug test. So we have over here the gold oral applicator. This is the one that's the highest milligram dose. So it's 120 milligrams a day. That's 3,600 milligrams in the whole entire tube. It's a 30-day supply. You can also stretch that out to a 2-month supply and do 60 milligrams a day. This one's going to be 50 milligrams a day. And then you have these oils that are around 34 milligrams. So we usually take this oil and we pair it with a capsule as well in the beginning.
Okay.
This is pure, approved by the Anti-Doping Federation. So anyone who's in a position of military, anyone who gets drug tested can absolutely take these products. They're still just going to be as good. You might need to take a slight bit more than the other one, but they're still going to totally work for you. And here's a few of the athletes that we actually work with. This guy, he cracks me up. He's called like the Nigerian Hurricane or something like that. But we do have some Olympic gold medalists. We're adding to this daily. The NFL is talking about using CBD as a neuroprotectant actually for concussions.
Yeah. And
this actually, Simon, you might know a little bit more about this. I'm waiting patiently to hear from the doctor who created it. He's in India, and I know you're going there. But this is from the hops plant. And it's interesting, I thought we created this for the military because there's no chance of THC. And so I honestly was not talking about it. But when I went to New York 2 months ago, I was running workshops. 2 women in 2 separate events came up to me and said this was the product that was the game changer for them for their fibromyalgia. So it's a high CBD content, 1,000 milligrams of CBD per bottle, 100% from the hops flower though. And I have been hearing phenomenal results around this. So I'm very excited to see, to hear. We're going to go to conference in April, and the doctor was flying over from India and he created that. And this is the product line that I think the majority of your audience would love, and it tastes amazing. It's got ashwagandha. I've got licorice root in here. This Revive Pro has more CBD than both of these, but the AM/PM is just a nice place to start. I've had people wear Aura rings and track their sleep, and you can see the difference when they take this PM formula as well.
In case you don't know what Aura rings are, they're a ring you wear that keeps track of your sleep cycle, of how many times a minute your heart beats, and a whole bunch of other measurements. AURA, right? No, OURA.
OURA, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. Actually, a policeman came over to me and he's like, I've been tracking my sleep. I've been doing shift work. And I was like, you're taking the PM? Like, you're going to fail a drug test. He's like, it's okay. I'm like, okay. You can tell in a drug test that it wasn't marijuana. It's like the level is so low, and they are talking about, like, if your place of work really wants to get into it, they'll be able to tell. So I recommend giving them a little bit of a heads up before you take it, though, and letting them know, hey, I'm going to take this. It's a prescription grade in 11 countries, blah, blah, blah. But it's like eating a poppy seed bagel. We also have a dog line. So animals have an endocannabinoid system too. However, dogs and cats are very, very allergic to THC. So you need to put them on this pure product. One of the top people in our company, she eats these chews all the time on live. She's always like chewing on them. They're wheat, corn, soy, gluten, dairy free. But I would highly recommend these for your animals. And the beautiful thing with this is there's no placebo, right? So you give it to your dog, it's walking around better. You know you didn't tell it, it's gonna feel better. So any animals with anxiety, I've used this with horses, arthritis, you can just use a tiny little bit. Animals have more receptor sites, and we do have a sizing of what they should get.
You have a sizing chart. Okay, awesome. I was gonna ask about that. Okay.
And hemp, we have a hemp clothing line too. So one of the initiatives of Canaway is actually to remove pesticides from landfills. So they are using a lot of, they're really a hemp company. And like I said, hopefully we roll out a hemp car soon, but we do have a very cute clothing line. So very reasonable. These scarves are like $25 or something.
And they're made of hemp, jeans made of hemp?
Jeans made of hemp. And you know what? Hemp is antimicrobial, it's antibacterial. You know all those shopping bags that we now make and carry around? Yeah. They're disgusting. They're like ridden with germs. If you were to make one out of hemp, it wouldn't hold any bacteria. So you can see where this goes. And these are some of the places that we have been featured. So what I'll do, Simon, is I'll put a follow-up email together for your audience. And there's some features on NBC, History Channel, Dateline, and it talks a lot about some of the publications that we've been in. And I always love to share this at the end because I think it's so funny. So beyond just becoming a customer, if you're going to be taking CBD, I think everyone should try it and be on it for 3 months. It cannot hurt. It's only going to help you. But if you want to become involved in the business, I would love to do a call with anyone who's interested in it, and I can help see if it's right for them. And these two very smart men, or maybe one very smart man, has said, Bill Gates said, if I was given a chance again to start all over, I would choose network marketing. And I found this so hysterical from Pad One. He said, he was on David Letterman, and he goes, what would you do if you lost everything and had to start over from scratch? And he said, I would find a good network marketing company and get to work. And they were shouting and booing. And in true Donald Trump style, he said, that's why I'm sitting up here and you're all sitting down there.
Boom.
And yeah, he was the businessman who just legalized hemp. So he is a businessman, and this is the green rush, and I would highly recommend a lot of people getting involved in it. Canaway is considered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There's less than 60,000 distributors. They're still a startup, and they're still making over $1 million a month. So even if you just—
Who's making $1 million a month?
Canaway is making over
the company. Okay.
Yeah. So they're in a very, very good position. It's considered a AAA classification, so the highest possible opportunity in the direct selling space. And we have an amazing team. So if any of your viewers are interested in incorporating this in their lives or their businesses, I would love to do a consult with them and help them out.
That's very generous. I appreciate that. And anything I can do to, to help, I'm all for it.
Perfect.
So what's the next step?
Well, this is just the last website that they should check out. So echoconnection.org. You can go here. There's over 25,000 research studies. You can click on the education tab and you can find ailment, and you can see if there's any research that's been done with CBD and that ailment specifically. But the next steps would be for people who are interested in getting a product to either talk to yourself or me. We can put a follow-up email together for them. And then if they're interested in becoming a brand ambassador, what I'll do is I'll put a little link in my thing. They can book a time slot with me and I can do a consultation with them. It'll take about a half an hour. So we'll do a business strategy call. And yeah, I'll just put that in the email for them and then they can reach out and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Chelsea, you've answered all my questions. And if people have questions, it's very generous of you to donate your time and they can contact you directly.
Yes, and please mention that you heard about this through Simon. I mean, I'll always ask, but I definitely want anyone who's contacting me to mention that it was through you.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm going to be in India for 3 weeks, so I won't be starting for another couple of weeks, but I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to get started.
Very excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simon, you have a beautiful night. If anyone wants to find me, my website is withchelsea.com. Pretty easy. And again, you can email me from there, but just let me know that you heard about this through Simon.
Okay, withchelsea.com. Awesome.
Chelsea.com. And I'll send a little follow-up email for you to give to the audience.
Perfect. Thank you, Chelsea.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day.